But back to the essence of it. So the essence, of the business is effectively spotting, scouting talent, and promoting and commercializing the talent. And was that historically with artists at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I mean, look, without being over sort of misty-eyed nostalgic about this, is that the business, which really grew up in the '60s, effectively in terms of the '60s and the '70s, has been built on um, relationships with talent, which lasted over many years and delivered and was developed. The classic thing is, if you look at artists like Bruce Springsteen springs to mind. Bruce Springsteen was signed by a legendary guy called John Hammond, and first couple of albums didn't really cut it, but his talent was deemed worthy enough to continue to invest. Although, as I say, the difference between the game then is, artists signed in that period, the royalty rate was invariably much lower. The upside could be that much greater because the volumes in the market were there of physical product. And the rights were generally in perpetuity. So I guess you could take a longer view because the rewards could be greater. Right
But,
now, sorry, go on.
well, I'm just curious because it seems like, if you go back to 80s, 90s, even 20 years ago, the artist needs someone to distribute to radio, to physical, with scale.
Yeah.
Whereas today, you can go viral, if you're lucky and good, pretty quickly. So is the record label business somewhat predicated on signing that talent in the first or second album or quite early in the career?
No, it's predicated on signing them out of the box. I mean, you make it very absolutely right. I mean, all the kind of the levers that the majors had 20 years ago, which is not only they control manufacturing distribution, they control the relationships with media and they control the relationships with retail. You needed to be, and they were on the scale, you needed to be with a label to be able to have a proper global reach. Obviously all that's gone. The other thing which has changed dramatically in the last 20 years is the cost of recording is reduced massively. So, you needed to go into an expensive recording studio to create a master quality recording 20 plus years ago. Now, you do it on a laptop in your bedroom. So all the economics have massively changed. The things where, so I would look at the business right now and go, so what do the majors primarily offer? Well, they offer cash and they offer reach. And a lot of people would say, and to be fair, there is an awful lot of expertise within major labels as well. There are very good marketing people. They're very good, digital marketeers. And there are very good A&R people in there who can really help an artist develop. But then you kind of have to weigh up as an artist and as an artist representative is, okay, I'll take a check from a major. In exchange for that check, I get access to that expertise and access to that reach. But I'll get maybe a 20 to 25% royalty. So I'm giving away 75% of my income for access to that. And I might actually have to give away rights for, if not in perpetuity, but for 15, 20 years. Versus I can go to a third party and maybe access smaller funding where I can build a team around me and I retain ownership of my rights and I'll get paid through 80% of my revenue share. And that's now the result. Again, five, certainly 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, there were far fewer options for artists to do that. Now there are a plethora of options for artists to do that. Even majors, each major also has what they call a label services or artist service business. So
these are not indie labels; they're kind of separate service offerings for.
They're not labels; they are primary distributors with services bolted on. So it's a rate card. You can either have a straightforward distribution, which will give you a set of pipes, we'll push it out to all DSPs, we can handle physical for you if you require it, and we'll account to you on a Most now do it on a monthly basis.
But the artist has to become effectively the startup owner.
100%. Yeah, and that's, well, again, taking my next point, which is artists now, new artists certainly have to be CEOs of their own business. So they're CEOs of their own startup business. And interesting enough, and this is all kind of comes back to the Napster conversation, is as Napster kind of took hold and file sharing took hold and piracy was rampant in the music business, and you saw a massive downturn in revenues. In terms of where there was more data, the majors became risk averse in terms of investing in very early stage now. They were waiting for something there. They're waiting for the data to kind of justify the investment. And data is not foolproof. And so what tended to happen is you get the situation where artists who are savvy enough or had management or representatives who could invest some money into them were building a platform. They were building a connection to an audience. So by the time the major came back and said, okay, we're ready for you now, the artists would go, well, not thanks, but you know what? Don't need you. I mean, a big case in point of this is interesting. Is it was 2 years ago now, actually. So, and it kind of is an anecdote, but it kind of sent sort of real ripples through the business, which is the British the British Record Industry Award, the Brit Awards, have at a time it's called the Brits Critics' Choice, which was kind of like a golden ticket. So it was the artists that most critics or their music professionals deemed to be the most likely to break through and have achieved global success. And it's been won by Adele and Sam Smith, and it was a golden ticket. And a couple of years ago, it was won by Georgia Smith. Now, Georgia Smith was an independent artist. And it was the first time a true independent artist had picked up this award, largely because she'd taken advantage of these third-party distributors, built a very good streaming business off her own back, creating her own music, cherry picking a small team of people to work around her. So by the time the majors came calling, she was going, look, you know what, thanks very much. I don't need you. I'm generating money for myself now. I don't need to hand away my rights or my control. So she has actually ended up doing a deal with Columbia in the States, which is a Sony company. I think it's Columbia. But, she's in control of her destiny.
She owns the masters rather than, and they just become a distributor, or what's the terms of these?
Yeah, I think. Well, it's certainly as far as the UK, she owns her masters. UK and the rest of the world, I'm not quite sure of the relationship with Columbia, but I'm pretty sure she does retain, or she's licensed for a shorter period of time, maybe 10 years. So they all revert back to her. But that's becoming now fairly common.